I have just sold my car and I will never own a car ever again. And in this video, I'm going to explain to you why I feel that way, why I think it's a good idea, and why I think that's actually a good idea for most of you.
Alpha Male 2.0. Freedom-focused lifestyle design for men. We do 5 videos a week here on how to make both your business life and woman life more free, because you need both. If you subscribe to this channel, leave a like on this video, and leave a comment on this video, you will automatically be entered into the regular drawing for my online video course on how to create location-independent income, normally $1,400. We regularly announce the winners at the community feed at this channel.
So yesterday, I reached a milestone in my life. It's a milestone that's taken me a while to hit, in that I sold my car. You might be thinking, well, so what? You sold your car, we sell cars all the time. I sold my car, and that car that I sold yesterday will be the last car I ever own. I will never own a car ever again. And I'm going to explain why I'm never going to own a car ever again. I actually wrote a blog article about this about a year and a half ago. And I was actually going to do this a year ago. I was going to sell my car about a year ago and experiment with being carless, even though I lived in a suburban environment. And COVID hit and things got a little messed up and a little screwy. So I delayed it. So I am moving out of the country, out of the United States, in a few days. So obviously I won't need a car where I'm going. And because of my international lifestyle, I will never own a car ever again. So I'm going to explain to you why I'm never going to own a car ever again, and why I think it is actually a good idea for the majority of you, maybe not 100% of you, but the vast majority of you, including those of you who don't live in cities, to not own a car either. Now, my historical opinion on this has been that if you lived in a city, if you lived in a downtown city, a downtown core, then obviously you don't need to own a car. That would be silly. If you live in downtown Tokyo or downtown Hong Kong or downtown Manhattan, or even downtown London to a degree, you don't need a car. That would be silly to own a car. So I said that if you live outside of the downtown core, yeah, you probably need a car. I have changed that opinion. I don't think that most guys who live even outside of the downtown core, even in suburban areas like I do, don't need cars anymore. And I'll explain to you how I came to that decision. So the first reason, the biggest reason, is that I travel a lot. I live an international lifestyle. And so historically, normally, other than 2020 because of coronavirus, although I traveled in 2022, I spent several months of the year out of the country, which means I had a car that was just sitting there idle while I was gone for months a year. Now, if it was inexpensive to own a car, that would be fine. It wouldn't bother me. But it's not inexpensive to own a car, at least not a decent car. I suppose you could own a complete piece of shit and it would be cheap and easy to own. But then we have a hassle factor of the thing always breaking down. You have to repair it all the time and things like that. So the car that I owned up until yesterday was a Lexus ES 300H. I get those numbers wrong all the time. Great car. Love the car. One of the best cars I've ever owned. Really like the car. But I didn't want to own it. You know why I didn't want to own it? Here are the costs that I had to incur every month, at least on average, to own that car, even if I wasn't driving the car. First thing was I had a car payment. Not literally a car payment, I had a virtual car payment. $400 to $800 a month, depending on how you do the numbers and crunch the numbers. That means that I had to spend, in some form or fashion, between $400 to $800 a month in some form of a car payment. Now, I don't do debt, so I bought my car cash. And even if you say, well, I buy my cars cash, Caleb, I don't do car payments, I don't do car loans, I don't lease cars, great, good for you. I don't like debt. I have an entire video on why I don't like debt. Great. But if you pay cash for cars, that means once every several years, you're paying cash for a new car. You're putting down $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, whatever you spend on a car. And that is the equivalent of you paying X amount per month. So that was a cash flow issue I needed to factor in there. If I was going to buy another car after this car got old, I would still have to lay down, $45,000. That's how much that car was. Now, obviously, if I made less money, it would be less of a car, but still it'd be a lot of money. $15,000 at least, $20,000 for a decent car, right? That's a lot of money. So that's the first expense that I had to incur, at least on average over a monthly basis, or at least once every few years. That's a lot of money. Next expense I had to pay was car insurance. I paid about $320 a month for car insurance. Well, Caleb, that's a lot. Yeah, but that covers everything. It's comprehensive insurance, it's liability insurance. I added a rider on there for health insurance in case the guy was uninsured or in case I had a problem with my health insurance if I got in a car accident and needed health care. I put another rider on there for if the car was damaged or totaled and I need to get a rental car, because I've been through that once. I've been through that a long time ago where I had a car that was totaled and it was in the shop for a month and a half. I had to rent a car for a month and a half, and that was a pain in the ass, so I have insurance that covers that. But even if you say that you wouldn't spend insurance money on that, you still have to pay $150 a month, $100 a month, $250 a month, sometimes $400 a month for car insurance. That's another fucking expense you have to incur. Next, on top of that, was gas. I was spending anywhere from $100 to $150 a month on gas, and I don't drive very much. So that's actually not much money. Pink Firefly spends probably double that, maybe 2.5 times that. Most Americans drive a lot. They spend a hell of a lot more than $150 a month on gas, even when gas is cheap. That's another expense you have to incur when you own a car. Upkeep and maintenance, that's another expense, even on a relatively new car. So I bought that car new. I bought it as a demo model, had 2,500 miles on it back in 2016. It was a model 2015. Even for a decent car, a nice Lexus that I took care of, there would be times where I would have to suddenly drop $1,400 on new tires, new brakes, new brake pads, renewing the tags, all that crap that you have to do. Even if the car is a good car and you're taking good care of it, maintenance and upkeep is another big expense of owning a car. Just how it works. And even those things don't count little things like taking the car to the car wash and cleaning the car every once in a while and crap like that. It adds up. So on average, I was spending somewhere around, I don't have an exact number for this, but somewhere around $1,200 a month, $1,500 a month just to own that car. That's a lot of money. Now you could argue, well, Caleb, if you have your company own it, it's tax deductible, and I understand all that. It's still an expense. So what? Tax deductible, great. So it costs a little less in taxes. Fine. As an alpha male 2.0, you're not paying a lot of money in taxes anyway. So it's not like I was saving a shitload of money having that thing being tax deductible. It still cost a lot of money. So that means if I didn't own a car, I have a budget of $1,200 to $1,500 a month that I could spend on alternate transportation options like Uber, Lyft. There's a service called Wings in certain parts of the United States that's like Uber, but you get the same driver every time. In some less expensive countries, you could hire almost a full-time driver for that kind of money. You literally could. In addition to things like mass transit services like Zipcar, where you have rental services like that. All these different avenues are very, very easy to navigate and easy to offset the cost of owning that car. So that's the first big reason. The second big reason is it's a lot easier these days, especially in a post-COVID world, to not have to drive anywhere. There are many cities all over the planet where they're based on delivery. You can get everything delivered to your house, not just Amazon, but groceries too. And that's something that I really wasn't taking advantage of, and now I'm going to, especially when I move to this new place. I'm going to have as much as I can delivered so I don't have to get into a car. There's no point in doing that anyway. Next reason, probably my biggest reason that I'm never going to own a car ever again, is that when you drive a car, you can't really do anything else. You can't really do anything else productive. Yes, you can listen to podcasts or audiobooks, and I did that for years, obviously. But that's it. You can't really work, generally speaking, while you're driving around. Now, there's one slight exception to that. Sometimes I've done my podcasts, my free podcasts on this YouTube channel. And if you want to look at my podcasts on other mediums, go to calebjones.com/podcasts. I'm on about 8 or 9 different platforms. So sometimes I've done podcasts, talking into my phone while I've been driving around. Okay, but that's not always an option. I only do one of those a week. So usually when I'm driving the car, I'm not able to do any work. Whereas if I have someone drive for me, if I have someone on Uber or Lyft or something like that, I sit in the back seat, I take out my phone, I hit the hotspot, I hotspot my laptop to my phone, and I can sit there and actually work. I can actually get work done in the back seat while the Uber guy drives me around. As a matter of fact, as I mentioned before, I was already doing that. So I had a once a month appointment in downtown, which took me about 45 minutes one way from my home. So that's, hour and a half in the car. Instead of me driving there, I paid an Uber driver, and it cost me $80 back and forth, total round trip, to drive me there and drive me back, but I could get work done, and I make a lot more than $80 an hour. So it was a worthwhile expense for me. So I'm doing this thinking, why do I own a car then? This is stupid. So by not owning a car, I'm only going to use transportation options where I can actually do work. I can be more productive. great, because driving in a car is a waste of fucking time, unless you're doing it purely for fun. If you have a great kick-ass sports car and you're driving around the countryside on a weekend just for fun, that's fine. But if you really want to do that, guess what? You can rent a car. You can rent a car for a weekend, you can rent a Lamborghini if you want, and drive it around all you want. Fine. You don't have to own a car to do that. Why? Especially when it costs that much money. The next reason that I don't own a car is that in the next 10 years or so, according to people like Elon Musk and other experts, maybe they're right and maybe they're wrong, but even if they're wrong, they're probably not way off. In 10 years or so from now, 10 to 15 years, what they say is that most cars on the roads will be autonomous. They won't even have steering wheels. Great. So what will be the point of owning a car at that point? You could probably just press a button and summon a car to your house or to your location better and more efficiently than you can now with Uber or Lyft. So it's going to get even dumber to actually own your own car in 10 years. Matter of fact, I think it was Elon Musk who said this. Yes, it was Elon Musk. He was talking about in 20 years, people who own cars that are not autonomous, the kind of cars we have today, will be like people who own horses. So in other words, there are some guys who own horses, and it's cool. But we don't all own horses to get around, right? The same thing. The few guys who will own cars that we have now will be car guys who think it's fun, and it'll be cool. But you still don't need to own a car unless you're doing it purely for fun. Now, let me address one point. If you make millions and millions of dollars a year, if you are super wealthy, then you can safely ignore everything I'm saying and own all the cars you want. Because I know someone in the comments will say, well, if you could afford it, who cares? Yes, if you make millions of dollars, go ahead and buy all the cars you want. I know guys with 8, 9 cars who make really, really high incomes. But frankly, I have a pretty high income myself, and I don't want to own a car. I don't see the fucking point. And I've mentioned this before. I have enough money right now to go buy a Lamborghini and pay cash. I could do it right now. I could go right down to the Lamborghini dealership in Bellevue, Washington, and I could go buy a Lamborghini. I'm not going to do that because the next reason I don't own a car is because it's a depreciating asset. I don't like having a hunk of money tied up in something that loses money every year, and that's a car. I want all of my money to be in appreciating assets. If it's an asset at all, I want it to go up in value, not down in value. And you know the old saying, when you buy a new car, as soon as you drive off the lot, you lost 50% of the value or whatever. And so people try to get around that by saying, well, never buy a new car, buy a 2-year-old car. I got news for you. If you buy a good 2-year-old car, I used to do this when I used to buy Nissans. I would buy top-of-the-line good Nissans. I know Nissan's not top-of-the-line, but the best Nissans you could get. I would buy them 2 years old, and I would still lose a shitload of value, dude. It's not like I would save a bunch of money by buying a 2-year-old car. That's not how it works. Cars depreciate in value. So that's another cost that I didn't even factor in at the beginning of this video. Your depreciation on the car. I bought my Lexus for about $45,000 5 years ago. I sold it for $20,000. Now, $20,000 is nice. I took the cash and just threw it in my investments. That's kind of nice. It's fun. But $20,000 from an investment of $45,000? No thanks. I'm good. I'd rather not own a car and have someone else drive me around. And I know because all the money I'm spending on a car now, I may actually make a profit on the amount of money I'm paying Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, or even a personal driver in my new location. Assuming I need to drive very much at all, which I'm not going to. My goal going forward in my life is to drive the minimum amount I possibly can. By the way, if you're a big left-winger and you're big on the saving the environment, great. Driving a car less or driving a car not at all is better for the environment, right? Pretty cool. And I drove a hybrid, so it's not like I was doing something horrible for the environment to begin with. But there you go. I believe that we are at a point right now in our evolution where most men, the vast majority, maybe not 100% of men, I'm sure there are exceptions if you thought through this carefully, but most guys watching this video, including you guys who don't live in cities, even if you live in a reasonably rural-ish area or the outer suburbs, which is where I live right now, at least before I move out of the country, you don't need a car anymore. I think you can manage just fine without a car as long as you plan ahead a little bit and think a little bit outside the box. And by doing it, you'll save a lot of money, you'll save a lot of hassle, you'll save a lot of pain in the ass, and you won't be investing in depreciating assets. That's just my opinion. I will never own a car ever again, and I am very, very, very happy about this. I was sorry to see my car go because I liked my car, but at the same time, when I got home, I took an Uber home, I was excited. I'm like, you know what? This is awesome. I walked into my garage, it was empty. At least my side of the garage, we have a 2-car garage. I had no car in there. I'm like, this is awesome. I never again have to worry about owning a car. Cool. Now, Because I know I'm going to get the question, well, will Pink Firefly have a car? Yes, Pink Firefly is not an alpha male 2.0. She is a normal human. She will have a car in the multiple locations we will be staying at starting in a few weeks. So yes, she will have a car. So I guess you could throw that in there. If I really need a car, I'll have access to her car, but I don't want to drive her car either. When we go, as of now, when we go somewhere, she will be driving her, if we go somewhere together, I should say, she will be driving her car and I will be sitting in the passenger seat. I don't want to drive a car anymore. I just don't. I don't want to do it. I don't want that to be a part of my life anymore. There's no reason not to with today's technology and today's infrastructure. There just isn't. And in 10 years or so, that's going to be even doubly true. So I'm getting a jump start on this stuff. That is my opinion, and you can do with it what you will. If you need more help designing a high freedom, high happiness, masculine lifestyle, you go to joinsmic.com. That is my mentorship and audio training program. Otherwise, you can click here for my weight loss plan for 2021, or you can click here on how to get the best sleep of your life every night. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.